Good morning. This is Katie Huff Mortensen with Katie Huff Ministries with Setting Yourself Free podcast, where we are encouraging you to walk out all that God has created you to be, do, and have, and never settle for anything less. And I am thrilled to have Dr. Troy Spurl from Synapse Center of Healing and Health here with me today, again, to share with you how we are gaining weight and the side effect of that being inflammation and so many other things. And I want to make sure you're going to see us and hear us on all of the different platforms. So please follow Katie Huff Ministries on Spotify, Apple, Rumble, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, X. We're on everything. And we want you to be informed, to be able to make great decisions for your life and live it to the fullest. And so I am thrilled to say that Dr. Troy Spurl is here, and he is such an amazing physician with such a wealth of knowledge that only wants to serve all of us in any way possible to heal us and have a healthy and holistic life. So, Dr. Spurl, thank you for being here. It's always a pleasure. And now
Thank you for having me.
Florida.
Yes.
He's out of the cold land and down into the warm weather. So that's an awesome way that you can do this.
Yes, temporarily I'm warm.
Yes, exactly. So that's great. So you were sharing with me that, obviously we're a month into this new year, which is really interesting because I think statistics, and you can probably clarify this for me, is that about usually everyone makes those New Year's resolutions and they're pretty good for about the first couple weeks, maybe three if it's really good. But now people might be going, oh my gosh, this is a little difficult, or I need to restart, is what we're hoping that you will do. And so how would you set that up?
Well, that's exactly right. So the timing is such right now that people may have been a little gung-ho and really started a process. But here's what I really want people to hear. So if you started working out, if you started eating better, it's right around the 2-3 week mark that your system really kind of gets overloaded from eating healthy. So from exercising. So there's a couple of things I want to just talk about. First of all, when it comes to the exercising, it all depends on how much blood flow you have. If your blood flow is not good, then the exercise takes extra longer. So think of it like this: if you haven't really exercised, or you're overweight and you have to get reconditioned, it's like having a single lane highway. And that highway is meant to deliver oxygen to all your cells and remove the acids that come from the exercise, or like the exhaust, basically, of an automobile, to keep the same analogy going. So as you exercise more, though, all of a sudden your body says, whoa, we need more demand here. And so we got to build a 2-lane highway, and then a 3-lane highway, and then a 4-lane highway. That's when you start to see that the exercise that was hard for you in the beginning becomes easier. So right at the 2-3 week mark is where your body says, whoa, we need to expand to a 2-lane highway here. So it's actually a crucial time. And because what happens is you get congested. The exercise causes a little bit of a backup in the liver system. The food, all of a sudden when that happens, the food cravings start to come up again 2 or 3 weeks into it. And so that's right now is when we see it's kind of a very important process. And this is why the people who create a lifestyle out of it do better. So what I mean by that is sometimes people are all or none, and they have to avoid all the bad food, and they have to dive into the exercise. That's great if you can maintain it.
Right.
If you can't maintain it, I always encourage people, it's always a good thing to pull all the inflammatory foods out of your diet just to see how you feel for a couple of weeks, because of all of a sudden, if you pull wheat and dairy and gluten and sugar out of your diet, and your brain just comes back alive and you're sleeping better, well, there's significant inflammation going on there. So it's really crucial to just get into the rhythm routine. Some people can get away with just having still a little bit like an 80-20 thing, and they're eating some things that they shouldn't because the inflammatory reaction is not that bad. But you have to know, you have to keep up with the consistency of the exercise and the diet until you've got that 3 or 4-lane highway, which actually takes 3 months. About 3 months.
Okay. Wow. So that's a lot. information, but very simplified with your analogy of the single lane to a double lane highway, and
Yeah.
which is great because I'm a very visual person, so I'm like visualizing, okay, what's going on inside my body, and there's so much information, but I think a lot of times people get lost in the information, and
Yeah.
when you talk about inflammatory foods, and that's a huge blanket, obviously, and I'm sure you could even discuss what that looks like, so you can take it from that umbrella or that parachute to, okay, what is exactly, do individuals need to really consider altering in their intake of food, which will help with the inflammation?
Yeah, so the number one reason why people gain weight is still calorie in, calorie out. That means they're eating more calories than they're burning. That's still true. A simple way to actually help with that is to just look at the calories of what you're eating. You don't have to track them or anything like that. Some people do. They're very analytical and they like tracking it. So taking a look at the calories, you'll be surprised how if you want to hit or stay close to somewhere between 1,400 to 2,000 calories in a day, you might be surprised that that favorite meal that you have is 2,400 calories all by itself. So
Nice.
you've just exceeded the daily intake, or that favorite dessert is 1,200 calories. So these things exist with some of these traditional recipes that we make, and so you can still make that recipe with cleaner versions, using a better oil or using less fried food. So there are ways to actually reduce the calorie count, still have it taste clean and fresh. But the fastest way to reduce your calories, other than getting like an actual idea of your calories, the actual number by looking at it, is reducing your plate size. They did
Right.
a fascinating study where they actually showed where people just used smaller plates, they lost weight because they were consuming less calories.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so that's a real quick one to just use less of a plate size. Also, when you go out to eat, if you're with someone else, a significant other, spouse, that type of thing, or even by yourself, just get half of what you'd normally order. So
Right.
split a meal, or as soon as you get your meal, cut it in half and ask for a to-go box. Put it in the box and don't look at it until you get home.
Great ideas. And
Yeah,
it's interesting that even as you get older, and I don't, our age range here is probably very young to even my age or older. But when you think of even, when you're in your peak of your life in your 30s or 40s, you possibly, obviously, depending on your exercise, need more calories. But as you get on the other side of that into your 50s and 60s, like you were saying, even when you feel healthy or you're exercising and that's your lifestyle, like you were talking about, what's really interesting is that at least I found it for myself personally, I automatically am feeling like I don't need to be so full, number one, and number two, don't need that, like you said, the big plate. And
yeah,
it's interesting, and it's just a confirmation that my husband and I even have actually sharing one dinner, and we're full. So
yeah.
that is such a simple fix that, full doesn't have to be to your chin. It can be
Nope.
just comfortable, and that therefore, making those just small augments, which is great. So that's a simple process. And of course, there's different foods that obviously are a little bit more high inflammatory. I don't know if you want to hit a
Yeah.
couple of those that would be general to most of the population.
Yeah, the by far the most inflammatory food is sugar, and we have started consuming so much more sugar nowadays. And so, I'll give you an example. When I was first going through medical school back in the early '90s, there was I transferred from medical school into chiropractic school. So just so for clarification's sake, there too. But when I was in the pre-med, they taught us that there was basically two types of diabetes: childhood onset diabetes and adult onset diabetes. Childhood was autoimmune, and adult, basically, they said you get between the ages of 50 and 70, and that was diabetes. Well, somewhere between the 90s and early 2000s, they had to change the name from childhood and adult to type 1 and type 2 diabetes. The reason is because people with diabetes started getting it in their 40s, and then their 30s, and then their 20s. And then the youngest cases of diabetes started happening in 8-year-olds. So what that means is that 8-year-old aged their pancreas to that of a 50 or 70-year-old in just 8 years. That's how much sugar they consumed.
Wow. That's
So yeah, that's a huge, because type 2 is adult onset diabetes, is a lifestyle diabetes. Type 1 is autoimmune, where your pancreas can't make insulin because of your own immune system attacking it for multiple reasons. We'll do a show on that another time. So we have an overconsumption of sugar. I mean, think about when you were in grade school, did they have pop machines there?
oh yeah.
Yeah, they shouldn't, right? So,
No.
and I'm going to talk about another thing, just a simple little twist on things. When we consume a whole fruit, like an apple, the sugar is bound to the fiber. So
Mm,
as you consume it, that sugar gets released slowly as it goes through your digestive tract over the next 2 hours. That is a slow release of energy.
right.
When you consume apple juice, there's no fiber in it. So you get all of that sugar from the fruit all at once. It spikes your blood sugar up, causing this big high and then a big low. So
Mm,
even things like fruit juices are not good for you when it comes to regulating your sugar and inflammation.
wow.
So they may contain antioxidants like vitamin C, but they also cause an inflammatory reaction by spiking your sugar.
That is so crazy simple
Yep.
that it's blowing my mind because it's like, how many times as a parent, an aunt, a grandma, a grandpa, you're giving your grandchildren fruit juice?
Yes, I know.
It's
Yep.
like, oh my goodness.
On
And
occasion, on occasion it's okay, but if you're trying to minimize the inflammation and have healthy choices, whole fruit, whole foods is always going to be better than anything that's been modified. And you've heard me say it before, but if God made it, it's good. If man changed it, just beware. And
right,
so every time we process something by simplifying it, it becomes more and more detrimental to us. I'm going
right,
to give one example when it comes to the sugar, because we've really refined the sugar. Um, the story of the opium seed, basically, or the opium flower, when you refine that from a poppy seed, when you refine a poppy seed, it can be refined down into opium. When you refine opium, that can actually be turned now into morphine. And that we all know that it's a pretty potent drug with a lot of side effects. If you refine morphine, which basically means make it smaller so it can get into our cells faster and easier, it becomes heroin. So from a poppy seed, which has a lot of good nutritional value for us, you can turn it into a deadly street drug the more you refine it.
oh my gosh, that's crazy.
Yeah. So we need the nutrients of the whole food. There's a whole system that gives energy and vitality to the body. So when you eat a whole apple, there's enzymes and there's all these other cofactors that help you use that sugar more efficiently. When they blend it all up and they do all these other things to it, you're taking all those bits and pieces away. And again, one of the other biggest problems is we've moved away from the vine ripened fruit and vegetables.
Right,
So we don't have as much nutritional value in our foods. When we used to have the fruit in our backyard and we can just pluck it off the tree, or an olive or something like that, when it was ripe, it was full of all these flavors and full of life. It
mm,
just got plucked off, and that goes in and feeds your cells. Nowadays, we eat a bunch of things that don't have those nutrients, a lot of calories, but no nutrients. So what does your cells in your body say? I need nutrients. I'm starving for nutrients. I'm hungry still.
right.
So that's why we eat and overeat, especially when we're eating dead food.
Mm, wow,
So dead food is inflammatory and alive food is good. And alive food, again, is anything that's in its whole form, whole fruit, whole vegetables, and as much as you can go from farm to table from local, the better.
right.
That's why you want to support local farmers,
Yes,
and you want to eat from the restaurants that source from local as
yes.
much as possible.
Yeah, wow, that is so awesome. You know, what's really interesting as I'm sitting here listening to you, of course, I'm thinking about all the people that think they're doing the right thing, and I don't know how you feel about this when it comes to, well, I'm gonna have a smoothie,
Yep.
and they have the frozen fruit. It's in its
Yep.
form, but it's frozen.
Yep.
It's in a bag, or they may throw fresh fruit, but they also have all kinds of, from, collagen to all the different so-called great meal in a glass, I guess.
Yes. Yep.
And that I see a lot. And I think in general, the calorie count in that can be extremely high.
Yep. Calories can be really high, and also it can spike the blood sugar, but it can also lower it. Because I will do, I'm not a huge smoothie guy, but I'll do them on occasion. But I actually will add extra fiber to my smoothies. So I'll have a bag of Fiber G is the one I use, but I get a little scoop of the fiber and I put it in with my smoothie. And if you're grinding up the whole fruit, it is better than just a juice. So, but if you're adding other things that are just sweet on top of sweet on top of sweet, it can be a little problematic. The problem is most people don't know what it does to your blood sugar. So if you're diabetic, it's easy because a lot of them have devices now where you can check yourself. But if you're not, you can actually check your blood sugar before and after just by going to any pharmacy, getting a little finger prick test and testing it before, test it right after the smoothie, and then test it an hour after the smoothie. And that's going to give you the information. How is my body handling this? Doing that one test, maybe 2 or 3 different times, is good information for the rest of your life. Because if all of a sudden you're realizing that smoothie that you think is healthy for you is causing problems, that's a good piece of information to know. And that's step one. It doesn't matter where you're at with your health. You have to create awareness of what does your body like? What does it do? What does it need? That's the biggest problem. We don't have a lack of information out there anymore. No. We really don't.
You can GTS everything, right? Google that stuff.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly right. And so a lot of times I have to work alongside Dr. Google and say, yes, that's true, but for your body, it needs this, and this is why. This is how we know it. So that's become my job. I've gone from when computers were non-existent. When I first started seeing patients, I used to have a day where I went to the library for 8 hours to do research and study, and then bring back that information to have it for my patients. Well, now I can take an hour and get like a full month's worth of information just by doing a quick search on PubMed and all the other areas there.
Wow, that is so amazing. So couple takeaways. Number one, add fiber to your smoothies, which is really important. And number two, obviously, is just pay attention to what you're putting into your smoothies, and that it is fresh fruit, not just juices. And just knowing, and like you said, checking your, do your own assessment of before, during, and after you've had these smoothies that you think you're doing something healthy, and it is healthy. It can be healthy, like you said, but the big but is
the big but.
The big but is,
yes. If you don't get it right, it leads to a big but.
Yes, it does. I'm glad you said that. I was going to say that, but coming from you is probably much more professional than for me. I don't think it was professional. There's a couple songs about that.
Yes.
That's funny. Wow. So that's all great information, obviously. And it's such a blessing to know that you really are so granular in the sense of taking the time to do the research. And that's why, again, Synapse Center for Healing and Health is such an incredible doctors and people that care about your health, care about your healing. And obviously you want to go to officialsynapse.com and click that little discovery button on their homepage and have a conversation with Dr. Spurl and his staff and see how you can make 2024 your best year ever and restarting your metabolism, restarting your health. So I want to make sure we got that out there because that's very important. I'm excited to be not only blessed to be with Dr. Spurl on this podcast and giving you guys all this great information, but I too am a client of Snap, and I'm excited to see what 2024 is going to be like for me. So Anything else you want to talk about with how we're gaining weight and the inflammation that is in the food and sugar being the worst, and just wrapping this up in a bow, whatever way you would like to?
Yeah, so one of the other things that I'll say that there's a two-way street. When we gain weight, it causes inflammation, but inflammation causes us to gain weight. And we can get into this vicious cycle. So blood sugar is just one of the 8 ways that we gain weight. Calorie in, calorie out, we said, is the other one, where you're eating more than you're burning off. A couple tricky ones, though. We have to make sure your thyroid is good, because thyroid sets your metabolism, and we lose our hormones as we get older. And do you know what eats away at our hormones? Stress. Stress basically eats away at our hormones. There's basically a foundational hormone called DHEA that becomes our sex hormones.
Mhm.
And stress will knock that down in the digestive system first, and then the rest of the body. And then you can't make the other hormones. When your body is stressed out, what does it do? It stores fat. If you're in fight or flight, like adrenaline, and it's like a tiger chasing you, it adrenaline causes you to just kind of run away from the danger. But if it's a long-term stress, like a famine, then you release cortisol.
Right.
Cortisol causes you to store fat around your organs so you don't starve to death. But here's the problem. We have this chronic stress now because we look at our cell phones and we see the news and the world. And then, so we have this cortisol being produced. It stores fat around our organs, but then we go ahead and eat. And so stress and the hormone imbalances and the thyroid are all very, very problematic. Gluten actually nowadays has its own separate category for weight. So
Wow.
it can cause too much weight or not enough weight because we've changed and altered wheat. And then one of the other things that's a sneaky one is environmental toxins. So we see all kinds of hormone mimicking environmental toxins coming from different companies. Here in Minnesota, we have 3M that has a whole bunch of problems where they're called endocrine disruptors. That if you look up some of the stories, there's news stories years ago about the fish in the rivers having male and female parts here downstream from 3M, and also frogs, many frogs with 5 legs. And so there's reasons for that. In Montana, we actually found one of our patients had chemical reactions that was causing issues with their hormones from the chemicals used in the tags they use on their cattle.
Oh, wow.
So it was a very potent chemical that actually was put on the tagging of the cattle, that was
Wow.
causing the weight problems. So you never know what type of environmental chemical is going to be a potential trigger for your hormones. And right now, what we know is there's over 90,000 different chemicals that the FDA has not even assessed yet, as far as how impactful they are to our health. So they're way behind. Industry has just gotten way ahead. And unfortunately, we don't know about the dangers of a lot of them until 10 or 20 years later, because certain cancers and certain disorders have developed and have been linked. And so the ones that are not life-threatening, but quality of life threatening, like having us gain weight, they don't get any attention. They're only looking for the ones that potentially kill you, like DDT.
Right.
So
Right.
so
Wow.
those are the 8 things. The way you get started, and I'm going to throw one last thing in: sleep deprivation or sleep issues is another form of stress that will cause you to eat differently, have less reserves. You don't feel like exercising when you're sleep deprived. So just prioritizing sleep is such a big deal. Getting on top of those 8 things, I mean, that is what we do in our programs at the clinic. We monitor all those areas, but also the lab work to see what might be off within the lab work that's causing it. The last one that I'm going to lump in heavy metals with environmental toxins and infections, underlying infections. Not a lot of people know that they may have a disbalance or imbalance in their gut. That's a low-grade infection that's going on and on and on. And it can really influence over time your ability to get deep sleep as well as lose weight. It also reduces your ability to absorb key minerals like iodine, which the thyroid needs. So that's a whole different topic in its own right, just the digestive system. But that's in a nutshell what you want to do to start looking at those 8 areas to really focus on improving your overall weight, lifestyle, and energy. Just start, though, with diet and exercise, eating whole foods, avoiding the inflammatory stuff, and get moving. You got to get up off the couch. You have to burn some calories. And so we need you moving, and motion is life. So very, very important to stay in motion, keep your brain busy so it's not making up stuff, and using your imagination for all the stressful things that never have happened or will happen. So very important.
Well, that is like a fire hose full of info, because I'm sitting going, this is awesome. And I'm going, okay, we need to talk about hormones and all of the DHEA with women and men, and how it is affecting our relationships and our energy and everything else. So that's, check the box there. The other one is obviously the, the gut health is so important, and what's going on there. And then sleep. It's so funny. It's like you're exhausted and you're not sleeping because you're stressed, because this is like this cycle, obviously, that you're sharing in so many words that are so profound, that it's like, oh my gosh, I am going to be the poster child for this situation. and being a client and a patient of Synapse. And excited to see how this is coming, because I'm sitting here checking myself, like I'm sure hopefully many of you are going, well, I don't have much sleep, I'm stressed, I'm not exercising how I would. And so you can join me at Synapse Health and Healing, and we'll all have a great 2024. So again, I just want to remind you to go to officialsynapse.com and click the discovery button, so you too can be taking a checkup from the head up, but also throughout the whole body, what's going on with you, to have the greatest year so far going forward in 2024. And again, I want to remind you, we are on YouTube, and subscribe to Katie Huff Ministries. Go to Facebook, Spotify, Apple, Rumble, X, Instagram, and learn more how you can take care and have your best year ever. So with that, I am so grateful and thankful for Dr. Troy Spurl. And is there anything else you want to say other than stay tuned, because this is just the beginning of what a great year in 2024 that you're going to have, with all of the advice and consultation and education. And obviously, like he says, a body in motion is always in motion.
Yep.
So get off that couch.
That's right. And you don't need to know it all at once. It is a fire hose. So it's a process. It's like, I tell people, it's like going back to school, but you're learning about yourself. So just make yourself a priority so that you can serve others. That is my mission, to help people become the best version of themselves, to honor God and to serve others. So that is the goal. It's a process, just one step at a time. And it's okay to have a bad day, because then you'll know what a good day feels like. So just stay in motion.
Absolutely. One day at a time, 1 hour at a time, and 1 minute at a time. So
you got it.
Don't be overwhelmed. Just be excited about what the future is going to be for you, as long as you take the bites out of this and move forward. So with that, I thank you all for listening to Katie Huff Ministries and setting yourself free from all that we've discussed, so you can be, do, and have all that God has for you. So God bless. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Katie Huff with Katie Huff Ministries, and this is Bella Jean, and we're coming to you today to talk to you about setting yourself free by having, first, a great night's sleep. How's that going to happen? By using MyPillow. MyPillow has incredible products. Bella Jean even has her own dog bed and loves it. She sleeps well at night, so do we. Because we also have the topper, we have the pillows, we've used the sheets, we have the towels, and we even have the slippers. So we are a family that loves MyPillow as much as my Bella Jean, and I'm hoping that your dog will love it as much as ours, and that you'll go to mypillow.com/unmasked. Again, that's mypillow.com/unmasked. And you'll get incredible discounts for your family to be setting themselves free to having a great night's sleep and having an amazing holiday season with MyPillow products. Thank you. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Katie Huff with Katie Huff Ministries, and I'm coming to talk to you today about setting yourself free. And what that means is it begins with taking control of your finances. So I was unfortunately introduced to a number of different financial planners that really didn't put me before their
profit. And I'm glad to say that Kirk Elliott, PhD, their philosophy is people over profits. They don't rush you. They have a holistic approach. They took my SEP, they invested it into gold and silver, which obviously is diversifying. It may be for you, it may not, but I will tell you this, KirkElliottPhD.com/unmasked, they will go beyond making you comfortable and knowing where your money's going. And so I would just say, take control of your finances, go to KirkElliottPhD/unmasked for a discount and great advice and peace of mind that you'll have.